go back to when yourself and first met.
So we used to live down the road from each other as children, so we knew each other. Anyway, I went off, did my own thing for about 10 years, saw other people, and he randomly messaged me and responded to his message, and he came round one day, and then I suppose that was it. Then said, come and move in with me, and it was quite quick, really. It was almost like he wanted me all to himself very, very quickly. So we got together in May, November we moved in together. So, and then a few months later I was pregnant with him, so it was all very, very quick. Early days when we were living together, if we had an argument, I tried to walk out, he would sit by the door.
So he would block?
He would block the door.
Okay.
And he's big, he's tall.
He's taller than you, yeah, significantly, yeah.
So he'd use the size in order for me not to be able to get out, and I just wanted to go back to my dad's, and he would just stop me from leaving.
And so, did he have tempers? Because I appreciate he intimidates and controls an environment.
Yeah.
To be able to get out, but during the occasions where you come home late from work, is that a temper while he's asking questions? Where have you been? Who have you been with? What have you been doing? Is it that type of?
Yeah, I would say raised voice.
Okay.
Speaking very abruptly to me, making out almost like I was in the wrong for having male colleagues send me a message or call me. Why is he doing this? Why is it, he'd almost flip things and make me feel guilty for something that I hadn't even done. He's very, very good at doing that, making you feel like you'd done something wrong when you hadn't.
Yeah.
And then you'd almost stop to believe it because he was that convincing, and that he would go over and over something. So when we were having a discussion, for example, he would talk and talk and talk and talk, and then you'd forget why you were even arguing in the first place, and then you'd end up coming away thinking, oh, I've done something wrong here, even though I knew I hadn't, and it would sort of send you into confusion almost, but I couldn't get my point over because he wouldn't let me speak. And it was like that for years. That just went on for years. But I'd say the temper started more when the kids were born. I think they pushed his patience, and his temper was towards the kids, and then it was me defending the kids.
So his temper then moved away from you, and it was then angled at the children.
Yeah, he hasn't got a great deal of patience.
Okay, so we're not talking natural father.
No.
They were just a bit of an irritation.
Yeah. He doesn't like change either. So, his parents, they raised him in a way where Monday to Friday they would plan the meals. So on Monday he knew it was this meal, Tuesday he'd have this. And I think now, because he's been raised in that way, change bothers him. That's why now I've left, he's trying to almost grasp hold of the children as much as he can to keep everything the same, because that part of his life has changed dramatically.
Let's talk about when you start seeing somebody else.
Yeah.
And your son gets involved in that process.
Okay.
Describe that story.
He just joined me for a walk when I was at work, so I didn't take any time out of family life to see him. It was just an hour here and there. When I was working, he'd come and meet me, to the point where I suppose we started feeling something for each other and then crossed the line. Now, in late October, I was putting fuel in my car, sitting in the passenger seat, and the week before, or a couple of days before maybe, I'd bought, he really wanted a bearded dragon for his birthday, and I'd messaged him, he's got this bearded dragon, he's so excited about it. and there were a couple of messages about the dragon. Went back in the car with my phone, and they said, "Oh, you've told me about my bearded dragon." And I said, "Yeah, I've told everybody that you've got a bearded dragon, because I know how excited you were about it." There were no other messages there apart from just talking about this bearded dragon. Has drilled it into his head that he discovered an affair from messages about a bearded dragon. I don't understand how a child would come to that conclusion from messages about a bearded dragon. He'd obviously gone home, said to his dad, "Oh, Mum's been texting, she's told him about my dragon." Put two and two together and started to become suspicious. Now, didn't make it known that he knew what was going on until December. He was going off with a lot, whispering. I feel that he was getting involved. He was almost, I think, that period of time, without me knowing that he knew, he was trying to get the kids on side, trying to. I think he changed from this harsh, horrible, impatient father figure to, oh no, this loving father, and the kids responded to that because it was something that they were not used to. Now, it was December the 21st, I think, or 20th. Well, he went to football, and he'd come up just to say hello, and we parked on there's a village hall directly opposite my house, and I could see it looking out of the window. I said, "Oh, I'll be back in 5 minutes. I'm just going up." And he was looking out the window. He was on the phone, so I knew that his dad was getting him to watch what I was doing, to feed back. And the next thing I knew, he pulled up at the side of us, and everything came out then. That he knew what was going on, but he'd kept this a secret for 3 months, which just, it was bizarre. But now I know why. It was his way of, I suppose, under the radar, so I wouldn't know what was going on, just changing his demeanour with the children to gain their trust and to perhaps turn them against me. He'd started doing it as early as October last year. Once everything was out, he was, I mean, this is when the verbal abuse started. I can understand he was angry with me, but I pleaded with him over and over again, "Please don't do this in front of the children. The children, they don't need to hear this." He even went to mutual friends of ours and was offloading to them. The children were there then, and my friend said to him, "The children are here, let's not do this." And he said, "No, they have to hear this." This was when he started to almost, I'd be standing in a corner and he'd be here, using his size to intimidate me. At first he was like, "The girls can come and live with you and the boys can come and live with me," because boys need their dad and girls need their mom. But he would make me feel like I didn't have any choice. My parents have got money, they can support me legally, I can take you to court, you won't stand a chance because you can't afford, so you may as well just do what I say, basically. And he said that you'll have to live somewhere I say, so I can have access to the girls whenever I want, and if I want to turn up at midnight, I'll turn up to see them. Just basically making me feel like I had absolutely no choice, no say in what we were doing. It was all that. What was so upsetting was it was all in front of the children. I expected him to be angry with me, but not drag them through it and almost give them graphic details of what was going on.
How graphic?
Talking about affairs, talking about what affairs meant.
Go
on. So, for example, when he found out, he shouted in the middle of the driveway, "Your mum's been shagging," in front of the children. "Come on, we're going. Your mum's been having an affair." And they just looked mortified. They shouldn't have had to hear that at all. for the first time, really, I was really, really scared of him, and I was just a nervous wreck every time he was in the house. That's when I decided to contact Women's Aid. This is abuse. You're suffering abuse here, and I didn't want to label it with anything because I wasn't sure what was going on, but I was in despair. I didn't know what to do, so I made the phone calls and just explained events, and they're the ones that labelled it with abusive behaviour. Said it was emotional, psychological. They kept advising me to leave the house. I hung on because at this point he was completely turning the children against me. It was like they were mirroring his behaviour. We played board games together, and they were fine because it was fine with me. They were just, oh, okay, we don't quite know what's going on here, but we're okay with Mum. And then my sister's wedding came along, and that was the turning point. That was just, and the amount of people that witnessed his behaviour made me feel, okay, this is it. I have to get out of here. So we'll go, I suppose, back a few days beforehand. Decided to come to the wedding, even though we were living in the same house, but we were separated at this stage. Prior to that, we said, look, the marriage is over. We need to decide what we're going to do, where we're going to live. We'd had that conversation. It was the only civil conversation we'd actually had. He messaged my sister a few days before saying, I just want to check where the children are going to be sitting because they've all requested that they're going to be sitting next to me. Now, they were all part of the wedding. There were page boys, bridesmaids. So my sister replied, saying obviously during the ceremony, the boys will be with, the girls will be with the bridesmaids. Rabbited on, just saying, I just want to ensure that the children are requesting that they're sat with me. My sister sent me copies of the message saying, oh, here we go, controlling again. So I phoned him, he said football at the time, I said, look, what's going on? Like, why are you doing this? I said, it's his wedding, this has all been pre-arranged, you don't even have to come. And he said, no, the children have requested that I'm there. The boys and remained ready, whilst me and went to have our hair done with my hairdresser, having a lovely morning actually, and then we went across to the bridesmaids and sat and had a couple of drinks and just was playing with her cousins and everything was lovely. Sat during the ceremony, kept looking over at the boys and are you okay? Like they were in some sort of traumatic situation. They were absolutely fine, you know, with the family, as they normally would be. A few minutes later, once the photographs had finished, there was a bit of a gap before we were going for the sit-down meal. Pulled me over to one side and said, oh, he's bored, he wants to go home. I said, okay, the boring bit's done now, you know, he's a 12-year-old boy, what 12-year-old boy wouldn't be bored at this part of a wedding? So we're going to sit down and eat in a minute and then, you know, he can do his own thing, it's going to go on all night. And he said, no, I'm taking him home, I'm taking the boys home. And I said, well, why? Like, this is ridiculous. They're part of the wedding. This is my sister's wedding. And he said something along the lines of that I was being selfish and I'm not putting the children first. And he started shouting at me, saying that he was their dad and he was doing what the children wanted, and that was to go home. I had members of staff coming up to me and saying, look, shall we have him removed for you? This is not on. The way he was behaving was witnessed by so many people. Everybody there could see that he was being controlling and angry and just ruining my sister's day, basically. Anyway, a couple of minutes later, he just left with the boys and left the girls with me. Now, the deal was beforehand that it was my sister's wedding, so he was going to drive so I could have a drink, enjoy the day. He knew I'd had a few drinks at this point, yet decided to leave a toddler and another child with me, knowing full well. So he could put the blame on me, saying that I'd had a few drinks in charge of two children.
Children, yeah.
But that wasn't the case because my dad was driving that night and he said, look, just enjoy it. I'll watch. It's fine. Just go and, enjoy the day with your sisters and make the most of it. But of course, twisted this after to say, you're a disgrace, you're drunk in charge of children, disgraceful mother. He was just using that as a manipulative way of making me come across as the bad one again. So after the wedding, I was absolutely fuming with him. The next day, I didn't really speak to him. The children were funny with me. I suppose over the next few days, they were almost scared to be nice with me. So again, this behaviour carried on. I think on the Friday, I just needed to get out. So in the evening, I just said, right, I'm going out. And I went round, just stayed there for the night and got out. Came back the next day, and that's when this alienation really started. Because I said, where have you been? I just said, look, I needed to get out for the night. Your behaviour is just, I just can't be doing that. I need some space. And he disappeared by the Saturday with the children. I said, well, where are they? Let me come and see the children. And he said, no, they didn't want to see you. This was the beginning of the alienation. I said, the children want to see you. They just don't want to see you. This was on the Saturday. On the Sunday, I went back. I took my sister with me because at this point, I didn't want to be in the house with him on my own. I was frightened of him. My sister was in my bedroom. When I got back, he got back with the children. He was towering over me, saying, are you scared of me, are you? Are you frightened of me? Am I intimidating you? In front of... He was doing this, using his size to really intimidate me. And I said, look, this is why I've brought my sister back with me, because yes, you are intimidating me. And then he piped in, well, Dad's never hit you. And I think I suppose, must have been having the conversation with either his parents or the children to say that he wasn't being abusive towards me because he'd never hit me. And I was repeating it. Then a couple of minutes later, he chimed in, you're the narcissist to me. This is coming from an 8-year-old boy.
So your 8-year-old son said, you're the narcissist?
Yeah. And then he also said to me that night, just do us all a favour and leave. The only reason you're sticking around is for the children are just cash to you. That's what he said to me in front of the children. My sister was just outside the door listening in, and he was just vile. He was talking about the affair again with. Go and move in with him. You love her, he was saying in front of the children. And at this point, the children again were starting to mirror his behaviour and just look at me like I was, I don't know, through his eyes, I suppose, at that point. So again, on the phone to Women's Aid, telling them what was going on, having conversations with New Era, who I had a caseworker, and they'd actually explaining the events that were going on. I probably missed a million out here at the time, and they'd escalated my case to somebody higher up because they thought it was more serious. And they said, look, we advise you to go down to the council and say you are homeless, you cannot go home due to domestic abuse. I said, but is it abuse? Somebody doesn't have to be physically abusive for you to feel that you're being abused, and it was all emotional, psychological abuse. And I didn't want the children to witness this anymore. That was my main worry. Forget me. The children were witnessing these conversations, and they shouldn't have had to witness these conversations.
The contact that you have now with them is what? You describe it to me.
Nothing.
Okay.
literally absolutely nothing. It's unjustified. I will write letters. I've written letters. I've sent letters. One to each of them so far. I have sent WhatsApp message to. I either get a reply from his father or nothing at all. Having raised them almost single-handedly for years, now to come to having absolutely no say, or I can't step in and help them, it's horrible. And that's it. I don't expect to have any sort of contact while all this is going on, despite saying in court he will do absolutely everything he can to encourage indirect contact. That's just not going to happen at all. So I can only just keep writing letters. I can keep sending messages. I don't even ask questions in the messages now. Just hope you have a good week, and just I'm here. And, I'll continue. I'll go to parents' evenings. But that's all I can do. I can't do any more really. I'm at a loss really what to do.
How does it feel?
Awful. I feel just destroyed as a person. Sorry.
It's okay.
My whole life has been about these children, and now it's the thought of them hating me is just. I can handle that. It's just the damage he's doing to them. I can't handle, because I can see, for example, like how torn he is. He's the only one that I've been having contact with now.
Up until recently.
And it's been amazing. I can't even describe, like, that. Every time we've seen each other, it's just been like we've been out to dinner, we've been bowling, we've been to Flip Out and to cathedrals, everything. We just, it's been so action packed, and he's been having a lovely time. He's been planning the next visit, and he's been chatty. He's been opening up about school and his friends, and he even said like he's had this girlfriend, and just confiding in me. Yet the second his dad appears, he changes.
He shuts down.
Completely. Yes, I'm in a lot of pain right now, but for me the most pain is knowing what the children are going through. And they don't understand why, and they've just been fed a lie, basically. I mean, me meeting somebody else doesn't reflect me as a parent, and why should it? It's just one of those things that happen in adult relationships sometimes. I'm a good mom, and to have that taken away is I suppose, grief, isn't it? Yeah. It's horrible. Yeah. I've been going through her SATs. I've not been able to sit and help her. Isn't particularly academic, so that worried me. It was always me helping with homework, with English and maths, and whereas he just didn't really know what to do with any of that, so that's where I'd step in, and that was, important for the children to be able to come to me with problems with homework. And who are they going to turn to now? It's just. I almost feel like some days like I don't exist, just plodding on and waiting. But yeah, I don't quite know what to do else. Like, there's nothing I can do.